So as much as I love the GT Omega R racing cockpit, it's got some problems. Alright, so as much as I love my racing simulator over here, it's got some problems. For example, we're missing some bolts on here, which makes the seat really wobbly. We've got a bent caster wheel down here, and we also have a case that hardly fits the computer anymore. So today we're going to be addressing all of those issues and fixing them and making this setup as perfect as possible with the budget that we have for the video. So we've got a few things to sort out, as I've just mentioned, and we've got the parts in-house to fix them, so let's do this. Okay, so now that you've seen the problems that we have, it's time to start addressing them. And the first one we're going to address is this, the PC, and more specifically the storage issue. So this case doesn't have enough places to store extra hard drives, which I have, and I want to install one. And so that means today we have this, a brand new PC case to move all of the components from this one into, which has more storage spaces, and it's a slightly bigger case, so it should be better for airflow, and it should just overall be a much better system for running more games, more storage, and for having a higher power sort of tolerance with like airflow and cooling and stuff. So that should be really, really good. And this case is very outdated. The back's hardly staying on, so it's going to be a very nice thing to get this new one in. I've never worked in this case before, so it's going to be a first, and it's going to be quite exciting. So yeah, let's start. So first thing we will do, obviously, is start removing all of the components from this and then getting them ready to go into this. So yeah, nothing better to do than to pop the side panel off and yeah, start tackling the issues involved. Now, I obviously do have technically a degree. I'm working towards it at college at the moment, a college degree, a diploma in IT. And yeah, so this is just putting my IT skills to the test and seeing if we can fix the issue at hand. So yeah, there we go. It's down a little bit dusty and dirty in here, but it's gonna be alright. We'll give it all a good clean up as we go. So yeah, let's do this. Alright, so grabbing the toolkit, obviously, number one thing. I fix it as well. We're going all out bougie with this one. And essentially I'm just going to start off probably by removing my Elgato and then probably the graphics card and just sort of rendering it down to the motherboard so that then we can start focusing on getting like the AIO out. And then what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and pop the motherboard out as a whole unit. So the CPU in it, the RAM in it, so we don't have to like sort of worry about reseating the CPU and, you know, mucking that up. And if we can do that, then we've got ourselves an absolute winner. We're on to an absolute winner. So let's get to work. We just got to remove the little Phillips head screws down. Oh, what the hell am I doing? We've got to remove the little Phillips head screws, which are down here, essentially. And we just got to get all of these out. So we'll go with the Elgato first, which is up here. It's the same as the graphics card, it's in a PCIe port. So we just pop the screws out. Going to want to keep hold of these screws because we're going to need them in a bit, because this case hasn't got any, I don't think. And just like that, out comes our Elgato, our really fancy Elgato. As you can see, it's a 4K 60 Pro, so it's a proper beast, and we're going to be using this for recording some racing games on the computer. So just set that aside, nice and safe and out of the way. And the next thing is to unplug our beefy 4060 Ti that we have here, which is an absolute behemoth of a machine. It's, yeah, very powerful. It's Asus. It's obviously an RTX board. It's got ray tracing. It's very modern, and I love it a lot. So we're just going to try and keep this one as safe as possible because it was not cheap when I bought it. I bought it during the shortage. So there's that. A little bit pricey, this one. So let's just figure out where our PCIe removal slot is. And if we are careful, oh, hello. There we go. Bit tangled, but she's out. She's dusty, but she's out. Look at that. Still got the plastic on the Asus logo pieces down there. That's crazy. Didn't even notice that was on there. So let's safely set that aside. And now I think we should start probably tackling, after we remove the Wi-Fi card, it's just tackling everything else. Get fans out, moving them over, and all of that jazz. But the Wi-Fi card should just pop out because it's not in a PCIe lane that's got a clip on it. I don't think. No, it should slide out, buddy. There we go. So obviously this PC doesn't have Wi-Fi built into the motherboard, so we just use a Wi-Fi card. Well, we use an Ethernet, but we got a Wi-Fi card installed for Wi-Fi capabilities, which is helpful. Sometimes the Ethernet decides to play up. Don't ask me why, it just does seem to do that. So I think next we should probably try and remove most of the cables from this, because they're going to be a little bit getting in the way and all of that jazz. Next step's probably to remove our AIO, because that's going to get in our way otherwise. So these were, yeah, just thumb screws. So if we just remove our AIO, doing it the way you're supposed to, because that's important, and just getting it nice and loose. So once it's loose, we can just hopefully pop it all the way off, and we'll be in for a winner. Kind of. If it was a real winner, we wouldn't have to be doing this in the first place. But we're here, we're doing it, and it's awkward. Okay. Uh-oh, where's he gone? He's under there somewhere. He's not magnet. Yeah, there. Off comes the corner. We've got some bits and bobs still obviously wired in there. Keep that out of the way, and there's our Intel CPU. What is going on here? Hang on. From what I can remember, those connectors stay in place. We got to remove the one from the back. Oops. Yeah, because that's the RGB cable that's hooked up to the thingy-my-bobby, I suppose. By thingy-my-bobby, I mean the RGB hub in the rear. So if that goes flying, we've got a problem. Please stay where you are, Mr. AIO. I don't want to deal with your shenanigans right now. Okay. Case is on. Let's just pop the side panel off, and you're going to see the dodgy cable management that we have running up for ourselves under here. See, as you can see, it opens out weirdly because there you go, all the dodgy cable management in the back. I did it the best I could with the case. Our AIO can just live up there for now. That's alright. It's nice and safe-ish. It's good enough for me. It's good enough for you. Right. Next job. We're going to start removing some of these fans, because without removing these fans, we're never going to get the motherboard out. And we can then start hopefully installing them into the new case as well, which will be quite the success. So we just got to get the right screwdriver head on. Stupid. We've got to just get the right one of these on, and then it's literally just a case of removing all of the screws. Around here. It's a bit of dodgy cable management, but we're just going to remove every single one of these individual RGB ports, so could be here a while, just bear with me. Okay, so what I had to do here was remove every single cable that was controlling the fans, whether that be RGB or the actual fan controls from the Corsair hubs. Now, a lot of these were in here, and they were in there so tight that it actually took me quite a few minutes, and it was quite painful to get them out because the clips had almost like seized into the hub, which was causing multiple problems, but eventually we did manage to get them all out, and yeah, it was a big success. Okay, I'm going to get all the fans out. I'm going to basically uninstall everything down to the motherboard, and then I'll get back to you when I'm starting to actually clip things into the new build, because obviously otherwise it's going to take way too long. Alright, so fun fact, it's been about 25 minutes since I last saw you lot, and it was that difficult with a case to work, and I actually removed the entire hard drive cage rather than just the hard drive, because I couldn't get to two of the bolts. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff, but yeah, now we can finally start getting the fans and the power supply and start getting everything in here, and then we're going to leave the motherboard in here, until we're ready to install it into this case, and I think that's probably the best way to go. So without further ado, let's get this case out of the way and get rid of it for good. So good riddance, Mr. Case, and can you leave my very important fans alone? There we go. So goodbye, Mr. Case, for now. And then we can just start clearing some stuff up and getting the new case ready for use. And well, here we go. Here you go. This is what the new case is like. It's like a tank, so it's quite a nice setup. Looks quite nice. It's going to be easier to work in, which is the main goal. And it's very similar to the Leland Lee one that I have downstairs, the 011 Dynamic. Had that before it was popular. But yeah, so let's just pop this off. So this is sort of the system. It's a much more intricate case. It's well built. Very nice. I like it a lot. So we've got to figure out how we remove panels. But other than that, it's going to be nice. Okay, if we remove that. Yeah, this is very, very similar to that Leland Lee case. But it costs about half the price. So it's going to cost me half the price. I'm more than happy to take that deal. And I can give you a bit of a comparison when it's done. But in terms of working room, this is a slightly smaller case. Probably more comparable to the Mini 011 Dynamic. But it looks like working room is going to be nice. And yeah, here's the box. Accessories box. It's got a cable tie, complimentary. Yep, some instructions and some standoff bolts. So everything we need basically is in here. So hard to commentate and build at the same time. I don't know how the tech YouTubers do it, like Linus and that lot. Mad respect. So in goes one bolt. Just like that. Should just hold it temporarily while we get the other one. One quick tip, and I'm sure you've heard it 100,000 times, is to just always you'll not do that. Quick tip, use the magnet. Quick tip is to always install crossways. It's just easier. Some things it's better because they're obviously, if they get too much stress on them, they'll break. But for this, especially with just fans and stuff, it's more of a case of convenience, because once I've bolted it in a cross point like this, that's now in, and it's, if you think about it, it's stable, which means that it's easier to get bolts. Otherwise, if it's falling around, you'd be trying to hold onto it while grabbing screws. So once it's in the state it's in now, I can just literally go around and grab screws more relaxed. That it's been that long, that thermal paste started to go like powder. For crying out loud. Oh my god. Sorry, this is really complicated for me right now. There we go. I haven't built a computer in a while. I've repaired them. I haven't built one in ages, so doing that is a bit rusty. I'm just thinking about the amount of editing I'm going to have to do this. But what I'm going to do is, here's a quick tip. I'm going to put this fan in. Next time you see me, all the fans are going to be in. When I clap my hands, all the fans are going to be in. Right, as you can see, all the fans are in, and you can probably tell by the fact I'm in different clothes and that my hair is a lot shorter that it is a totally different day, and that is purely because I had to order some parts that I didn't have. And now we've got it all installed, all the cables are managed, basically every cable's in, the power supply's in, the hard drives are in, and obviously all the fans are in and all wired up. So all we've got to do now is just fit the motherboard, fit the graphics card, reapply some thermal paste, stick all the cables in, and that should be the whole computer done. Then we can move on to the next couple of tasks that we need to do to get this set up, sim rig back to where it should be. So without further ado, let's get the motherboard into the new build from the old build. As you can see, all we've got to do is remove these bolts. There's a couple of bolts left in this. This was a pretty poor case for mounting the motherboard, so there's not too many to remove. As you can see, I've already cleaned up the CPU. That was done earlier before I started, because I thought we could save some time. Flipping heck. And obviously you can see all the cables are already undone. I've left the CPU and the RAM in as they are, because, well, makes my life easier when we're mounting it to the new build if I don't have to stick all the RAM and stuff back in, and also it stops me having to reseat the CPU, because that's just a pain in the bum. Right, this one in the bottom corner is playing tricks on me. Just got to get connected into it and just keep unwinding. Keeps falling out. There we go. It should mean that now, yeah, motherboard is free. Dobby is free. Anyway, I'm going to get copyrighted, but now we need to get the other case down, laying flat, so that we can pop the new motherboard in, and then we can get the CPU, you know, sorted out with its cooler, and then it's just, yeah, installing all the other bits and bobs, and it's done, and then we can test it, turn it on, see if it works, and party if it works. Okay, and if it doesn't blow up, I don't have a fire extinguisher, so if it catches fire, we'll have to chuck it out the window. Okay, let's get this new motherboard installed. Well, not new motherboard, it's the same motherboard, but it's a motherboard, so it's just got to pop in, making sure we don't get any cables in the way, obviously. It's just about pulling it and making sure everything's lining up with the back, so where your actual, like, you know, all your ports are, and it's just about lining that up so that's all connected. And then it should mean, yep, all your standoffs are lined up. So that's all okay. We're all lined up nicely there. And so we can just get all of our lovely bolts and make sure that if there's a standoff, it's got a bolt in it. That's the goal here, is to get every standoff having a bolt in it, so it's nice and secure and it can't bend. You've got to remember you want to do it in a cross pattern, because patterns are cool. And it's got a technical reason, just to not put stress on the boards. Okay, so all I'm doing here is just installing all about 5 or 6 screws into the motherboard and connecting it to the case, making sure to take stress into account, because the motherboards obviously have all of these delicate parts that we don't want to cause extra damage to than we have to. And so what I'm doing here is installing them into the case, and this case is much better because it has more screws for this motherboard, meaning this motherboard is more secure and safer. Now we're going to do all the, should we do first? Cooler, the lines will get in the way, so I'm just going to go through and do my cable managing, I think, and get all these cables in. Okay, so here I'm just installing each of the little cables that obviously make the computer work, such as the motherboard power cable, like CPU power cables, cables for fans, and the SATA cables for the hard drives, which obviously all play a role in making this computer work and making it the beast that it is. Now, a few of these are quite big, chunky cables, so they're very easy to install. You're not really going to have too many problems, but as you can see here, I'm installing the intricate power cables, where these tiny ones that plug onto pins that can bend, and they're very delicate, so you've got to take extra time and care in doing so. You've also got to line them up with the correct pins, because they're not just like a connector like you'd find in, say, a car where you've got a plug and it's just a plug into a plug. They are more difficult, and you just got to line them up, and they're all labeled but not very well. Now that's just me here tightening it through and making sure all the cables look streamlined, and so the front of the case looks presentable, and the cables at the back are all just tied in. Here I am putting the back panel on just so it all hides the cables away, which is a great success because all the cables weren't damaged at the end. It's looking quite clean at the moment. The cables aren't looking too poorly managed. I'm pretty happy with them so far. I mean, there could be some better cables probably, but at the moment it's looking alright, and these ones will probably be mostly hidden anyway, you know, when we're looking at them. But it's quite a nice case. A little bit difficult to find out where certain things go because the instructions are absolutely dire, but for a case, as far as it goes on a budget, I got it for 65 quid. It's really nice. So yeah, let's get this cooler on. Okay, so the step number one was to apply some thermal paste. Now I just installed a pea-sized amount, which is just the basic bog standard one that everyone considers to be the best. Then we actually installed the cooler itself using obviously that cross pattern to reduce stress on the CPU, because the CPU again is extremely delicate. It's got individual little pins and little components that you do not want to damage at all under any circumstances, because it can just kill the CPU, and CPUs are expensive, so we don't want to do that. Does this work? At the top of this, up here, there's a little data cable, so it does require us to sort of pop this back off, but that's okay. And then in here, as you can see, it's got a little white line. This bastard just pops in up here. We're not using the Pro one anymore. Don't need it. It's a waste of cable space. Waste of space in the back, so we're not using our old one. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a power plug. We're going to turn it on for the first time and just see if it works, and then go from there. So with a bit of luck, we'll see lighting on our motherboard. Bingo. Hang on, let me just move you lot down. See that as lights on the motherboard. Okay, in the moment of truth, I went to power it on and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. There was no response from the power button. And the cables, was it the cables? Have I done something wrong? Is the power supply broken? Have I shorted it? Well, it turns out that the power cable had turned itself off at the power supply, and lo and behold, we have power. It's alive! She's alive! Yes! Yes, and they're all running the same colour because they're all running the same connector. And for the first time ever, now this is like revolutionary. Be in my power supply. Now it works. Come on, vamos. We can get a graphics card back in now. I hate doing this because you have to break them off. It's really awkward. And they don't want to break, and it's a pain, and it's like, oh. Anyways, we've got to break this one off. Crikey. That's fucking strong. There we go. That is the strongest thingy, like PCIe slot cover thing I've ever seen in my life. I need an angle grinder to get this one out. Oh my word. It's got like a join point that feels like it's welded. There we go. Holy. Right, if you want to buy this case, and I will link it in the description, but make sure that you're the Hulk before doing it. Alright? Make sure you're the flipping Hulk, because oh my word, what have I just had to do? And just like that, it's running and it's back up and better than ever. And so the last thing to do for this build before we can consider it complete and stage one of the video is done is just to do the old thing. Remove that. Colby. And it's done. Looking as majestic as ever. Alright, so without further ado, we can consider this done and we need to move on to completing the actual simulator. Okay, so now we have completed this absolute beauty and beast of a machine over here for the sim computer. It's looking stunning, it's looking up to date like it should do in this lovely tank case. I have got a little surprise coming from just down there in the case, but I'll have to show that in a future video, probably the next one, because it's not coming for a few days. But anyway, so next thing to tackle, and basically the last thing we need to tackle for this video, which has taken a while to get to, is that we have a bent wheel down here, a bent caster wheel, and the seat is not mounted properly, so it's like shaking around. We're missing a couple of bolts, and it's not on its rails properly. So we're going to sort that out now with a fresh set of caster wheels from GT Omega, as you can see, and some lovely bolts for the sim rig, M8 bolts. So without further ado, let's get this sim rig back as perfect as possible because it needs it, and then also it will have rooms for upgrades, and obviously we can sell it in the future if we need to. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to set you guys down, and I'm going to get it to work, and I'm going to talk you through it and sort of time lapse it and do all that. So yeah, let's do this. Okay, so step number one is to remove all of these bolts. Now I've tried to remove them with a little spanner that the GT Omega stuff comes with, but it really wasn't working, so we've moved to the big old torque wrench and the socket set. And so we are now removing them, and they're coming off nice and easy, and it means we can just basically fully remove the chair itself and get down to the base where we can actually line up the rails, because these weren't lined up, which means that the rails probably couldn't slide properly and the seat felt a little bit sideways at times. Then all I'm going to do now is just be removing the actual rails from the seat and stripping it down so that the seat and the rails and all the mechanical systems are completely separate, which is just going to make it easier to diagnose the problem with the rails and why they're so stiff and not really working, whether it maybe needs some WD-40, some other lubricant, or whether there's a bolt stuck in there, or whether there's a bolt the wrong way round, for example, that's keeping it all stuck. And then the other issue that we have here is just the whole mechanism together isn't really supposed to come off of this. It comes with the chair like this, so actually getting them off is very, very, very difficult because the bolts are all in tight spaces, probably because it's been made by a machine, which has just caused me more and more issues over time. But we do eventually manage to get it off with some good old-fashioned force that does really work. And I just basically got a little spanner thingy out from the set and just used some Allen keys and got it all off. Okay, so as you can see, it is a little bit dark outside now. That's because it is nearly 8 o'clock at night, and I finally figured out what was wrong with the chair, and we managed to get it back together. So I've obviously, as you can see, I replaced the bolts down here, some fresh ones, which make it nice and sturdy. And the other thing I fixed was the seat rail. So now, let me just give you a quick example. If I pop you down here, pop that back up. Okay, as you can see, step on it just because it's not connected. We now have a moving seat. That didn't work for about 3 years because the young version of me decided that I was going to put the bolts in backwards, so I stripped down the entire system, took the rails out of the seat, stripped it down to just a chair, went it through WD-40 both the rails to make them sort of lubricated, and then realised also the bolts, after watching plenty of videos, I noticed that the bolts and the nuts were the wrong way around, so the nuts was actually stopping the sliding rail from moving. Swapped them around, now it all works perfectly. So that's a bonus. So all I've now got to do is get the new caster wheel on, which is obviously bent. So we've got a fresh pack, well, we've got 8. We're going to need 1 to replace the one on the chair, and then we're going to obviously reinstall the handbrake, the gear stick, get everything running, plug everything in, and then just test and see if everything's working as it should be. So yeah, let's do this. I just need to, get cracking because it's getting dark, it's getting late, and this video is already late and it needs editing, so yeah, let's do this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to replace this caster wheel, because we might as well do that first. Now, all it's going to take is, as you can see, a heavily bent caster wheel here. It's literally on sideways. Looks like the BFG has stepped on it, but that's besides the point. We're going to just get our fresh pack of caster wheels, set them ready, open them up, and we just got to remove the old one, which is bent. Me and my dad tried to fix it, but we couldn't, so we're just going to replace it for a fresh one from GT Omega. These have been out of stock for ages, so it's been more of a case of waiting for them to come back in stock rather than not being able to do it. But I found some. It cost me 30 quid for all 8. Quite expensive, but caster wheels in general are really good. So here you go, in their own individual packets. Got a fresh one, as you can see, fresh reel. And as you can see, this one is a lot more straight than the old one, which is very bent. So yeah, let's get the old one off and get back to work, because that's very important right now. Alright, so all I'm going to do here is remove the caster wheel using a little spanner thing that the set came with, the wheels came with, which is good because it gives you that accuracy that you're not going to over tighten it too much. And then it's just installing the new one is all about just using it and gradually moving the nut up, and so it's all as far in as possible, because the old one wasn't. It got a bit cross-threaded, and that's why it actually bent, and that's why it's no longer any good for us. So there we go. Nice straight caster wheel on there. See, it's not bent, and it's running nice and smooth now, so that's all good. So get the handbrake back on, wire all everything back in, get the computer turned on. We know it posts, we know it works, and yeah, let's do this. Right, what I also did, and I forgot to tell you, is this used to have a lot of place. I mean, when I tried to tape it down, put some wood in it, didn't really work. But now I've just gone back through, added washers and a couple of nuts, so that changed it around a bit, and now the gear stick is completely solid, which is really helpful. So we don't have to sort of adjust that, and it won't move back too much when we're actually trying to sort of use the gear stick, especially if we're racing and we're like trying to, you know, change gear with quite a lot of force. So yeah, that's that. So let's actually get the chair mounted back onto the sim, and yeah, we can sort of see it in its full form. I'm glad we can sort of roll the seat now, because before I had to change the support bars to actually move it through. But if I can just change the seat sort of position with the roller, a bit like in my car, it's a lot easier, and it's a lot easier, especially if because I've got a lot of friends with different heights. We can just slide the seat when we're getting in, and it's going to save us a lot of time, especially if we're jumping between, especially if we're doing like a long race where we're swapping drivers. But you know, yeah, that's all doable. So yeah, without further ado, let's get it on, and I'll get back to you when that's on, because you don't really need to see me fitting it. The other cool thing I just did, which is going to add to stability with the gear stick, is I've now managed to actually find 2 bolts that fit the gear stick. So the gear stick's actually mounted in a bit like the steering wheel and the handbrake, so it's not just using the stock Logitech clamps that are a little bit dodgy. It slides off quite often. It's actually fully bolted in now, so it's going to be nice and sturdy, and a lot more sort of, yeah, well, you could call it roadworthy, I suppose, but it's going to be a lot more, yeah, stable, sturdy. It's going to have a lot higher quality and a better feel as well, so that's going to make the simulator a lot better. So yeah, without further ado, let's just drop that back in, line it up to a decent height. Okay, so drop that back in there, we'll line it up to a decent height, and then we'll wire our wiring up, get back to you when the computer's on, and we'll try it out playing some Forza. So yeah, let's do this. Sorry if the lighting's getting really bad, not really much I can do about it up in this room. It's got some awful lighting. Alright, so as you can see, this is my view from the sim rig. As you can see, looking straight through, you can see the speedo, which is very, very important. And having a feel, yeah, look, everything's working, it's all responsive. As you can see, the pedals working. Handbrake we haven't turned on. But from my POV, this is the sort of POV drive in the sim. Wasn't paying attention. It's very nice. If I just sort of hold it over and go around the corner, you can see it's all working. It's working. So, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Hope you all did enjoy. Did remember to leave a like, subscribe, you know the rest. Everyone else told you millions and millions of times, I am sure. And yeah, see you in the next one.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.